Hi. Thanks, you guys. It's great to be with you like this. About 15 years ago, my mom died. And the day of the funeral, I was able to take a couple of minutes to just be alone with her at the casket, kind of in that moment of saying goodbye. As I was standing there, I noticed a motion to my right, and I looked, and a very elderly, diminutive woman moved to my side and parked there. And we didn't know each other, so we didn't say anything to each other right away. But in a moment, she pointed to my mom and she said, "That is the best looking corpse I ever saw." That is the best looking corpse I ever saw. What do you say to that? Thank you for coming. But honestly, I just wanted to put my arms around her and hug her because she was trying to find something, honoring to say, something comforting, and this is what she came up with. So great. But those words, "That is the best looking corpse I ever saw." Somehow those words lodged in my mind, and over time they sort of morphed into a new meaning. And they spoke to me about a truth in the culture in which we live. And the truth was this, that in this culture, we go to great efforts to preserve the corpse. Now, I might be talking about a physical body, but I might be talking about something, for example, like a job that we had that's come and gone and now it's moved downstream. Or a relationship, or a season of success that have come and gone and have moved downstream, but we want to hold on to them. We wish that we could preserve them. Or in a time like we're experiencing together right now, with all the stuff that's going on in the world and the craziness and the anxiety producing events, it might be our idea of a simpler time when things were more reliable and things felt safer and things felt more certain, and we'd love to be able to grab that time and bring it into the present, exchange what we have today for what was then. But all these events or experiences go through seasons of embracing and releasing, seasons of growing up and falling away again, seasons of living and seasons of dying, and sometimes of rising back up again in forms that are even more transcendent and profound than the original thing was. And what I'd like to talk to you about today and next time, we're going to talk about this topic in two parts. What I'd like to talk to you about is how hard it is, and yet how very important it is to relax down into the season in which we find ourselves and to cooperate with the rhythm of that season, the wisdom of that season, the life that that season is trying to offer us as we move progressively through the seasons of our lives. There's a particular verse from the Gospels that really capsulizes this. It's a verse that you'll be very familiar with, but I'd like to read it for you because it holds a lot of mystery and also hope. Jesus from John 12 says, "The hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. Very truly I tell you, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds." And that's the hopeful part, that out of the mystery of these things that are released, the things that die, come many seeds of new life. Jesus himself, of course, lived through a variety of seasons of embracing and releasing. Some people have noted over the centuries that Jesus passed through, in his earthly life and ministry, Jesus passed through at least 6 distinct seasons or stages or phases of life and ministry, each in a redemptive way. And interestingly, These seasons are, of course, first and foremost historical for Jesus, but they also parallel seasons that you and I are passing through every day. You know, we are in Christ, and so we participate with Jesus in these seasons if we will allow ourselves. So what I'd like to talk to you is about these seasons, and the 6 seasons are these: Cana, Good Friday, Easter, the 40 days, Ascension, and Pentecost. Now, what I'd like you to do as I move through these seasons with you, today we're going to talk about the first 3, Cana, Good Friday, and Easter. Next time, the final 3. What I'd like you to do, if you would, is to notice, as I'm talking about these seasons, check in with yourself and notice what particular season you most connect with at this time. And I should mention that these seasons are not like once and done. They're not totally linear in the sense that you move cleanly from one season to the next and you get through them all and you never repeat them again. No, it's not like that. It's more like you can be in a couple of seasons in different areas of your life at the same time. Or you could be in one season of your life and cycle back through that season regularly over the decades as you move to a deeper and deeper understanding of yourself, a deeper and deeper life with God. So notice your season, if you would, and then also notice if you find yourself kicking against your season in any way. Sometimes we don't particularly like the season we find ourselves in, and so we kick against it. But, you know, how do we make peace with the season we find ourselves in and be with God in it? You know, that great wisdom. Be with God in what is. Relax down into our real lives, the real life we've been given, and let Jesus lead us forward in that expert way that only He knows how. All right, so the first season, Cana. Now, what do I mean by Cana? When I talk about Cana, I'm talking about the first 3 years of Jesus' earthly life and ministry up to Good Friday. So the first 3 years of his life and ministry. And I refer to these years as his Cana season because they reflect the same dynamics that happened at his very first miracle at Cana. Do you remember at Cana, Jesus arrives, they've run out of wine, he fixes the problem, and the party goes on. It says of him, this at Cana, this is the first of the signs that Jesus did in Cana at Galilee. And here he manifested his glory, and the disciples believed in him. So this is what happened at Cana, but it's also sort of what happened almost everywhere he went for the first 3 years up to Good Friday. He would arrive on the scene, he would perform a miracle, he'd deliver amazing teaching. He had some problems because the Pharisees would confront him, but he's always able to have an answer for them and overcome his problems. And his ministry is expanding, he's becoming more popular, and the party goes on, so to speak. This idea of life, a life for ourselves, a life touched by God, we arrive on the scene, maybe we confront a problem, but we're able to overcome our problems. Maybe we're the hero a little bit, but life is good, life is expanding, life's progressing. We have problems, but our problems are fixable. This idea of life is a deep hope inside us. In fact, it goes beyond a hope. It's an assumption that we carry, an assumption that that's how our life should be. It should be getting better and better and better, and it shouldn't cost us too much. And it would be wonderful if life was just this way. But for us, like with Jesus, our Cana seasons often bump up against a Good Friday. So, Good Friday. For Jesus, at his Good Friday, it was the time when he needed to release yesterday. He needed to release his Cana season, not because there's anything wrong with it. That Cana season had been a beautiful time, but it was time to release it, and his Good Friday was a passageway towards something even more wonderful. You know, during Jesus' Cana season, he was an amazing teacher and miracle worker. Then he passes through Good Friday. He becomes something even more profound. He becomes the Savior of the world. So your Good Friday experience is a doorway. It's a passage of invitation towards something even more rich. And like Jesus, you and I are always experiencing our own Good Fridays. What do I mean by that? Usually, you and I are experiencing the death of something in our lives. It might be the death of a relationship, the death of the kind of marriage we thought we were going to have, the death of the kind of family we wish we had grown up in. My wife Jerry and I attended a church many years ago where we experienced some spiritual abuse. And that was a kind of a death. And some of us have been physically abused, some of us have been emotionally abused, some of us have been sexually abused. And these all represent a kind of a death. The way that we were able to trust life in the past or trust God in the past has died a little bit. So these deaths come to us in all different shapes and sizes. Maybe this moment that we're passing through right now with all the crises in the world, maybe this is represents a time of death for you. Maybe the death of your retirement, or the death of the year that you thought you were going to have this year. So all these deaths. Years ago, when my granddaughter Lydia was 4 years old, there was a series of months where from time to time she would pause and look at me very intently, and then she would say, "Grandpa, you're old." And after this had happened a few times, one time I stopped and I said, "But Lydia, I don't feel old. Why do you think I'm so old?" And she got this very shocked look on her face, and she said, "Grandpa, look at yourself." So I was like, oh, I see. The death of my youth, you know, the death of my former hipness, if I had ever been hip. So we experience all these Good Fridays, all these deaths, but the happy thing is that our deaths are not our destination. Our Good Friday experiences are not our destination. They are a passageway. They're a doorway towards something even more profound, and that's represented by Easter. So, at Easter, do you remember in the Gospels when Jesus appears to the disciples in the locked room after his resurrection, after his Easter resurrection? He appears to the disciples and he shows them his hands. And his hands are both resurrected and wounded. His hands are both resurrected and wounded. His resurrection has not made his wounds disappear. And this is the same for us. Our Good Friday experiences, our losses, our deaths have marked us. And we will never again be exactly who we were before our loss, before our Good Friday experience. And the power of the resurrection is not that it takes us back to who we were before our loss. The power of the resurrection is that it pours a deeper, more profound quality of life and well-being into the contours of the person who has suffered the loss. That's what Easter is offering us, this new dimension, an unexpected, before and unexperienced type of life, quality of life. That's what Easter resurrection life is is offering us interiorly. And now we have a choice to make. Do we receive what God is offering us in our Easter life and in the idea of this new future that He is preparing for us? Do we receive this, or do we spend our best energy trying to get back to Cana? Trying to get back to the life we prefer, our old life. You may have heard the contrast between the two words resuscitation and resurrection. Resuscitation and resurrection. In resuscitation, we are trying to convince God to bring back to life the thing that we've lost. Our best energy, our yearning, our strategizing go back to trying to resuscitate the thing we've lost. Resurrection, on the other hand, has a different dynamic. In resurrection, we are entrusting ourselves to a process that is using the space created in us by our loss to bring forward a different quality of life, a new life. In resurrection, we are entrusting ourselves into the care of Jesus, who is this loving expert and engineer at guiding us through the dynamics and the dimensions of our season of loss toward our new season of life. So we can lean backward into yesterday, or some of us, I put myself in this category, lean sideways sometimes into our fantasy life. Maybe I don't want to go back to the life that I was living in the past, so I create a fantasy life, a life that I wish was mine, and I try to lean into that. Or I'm being invited to lean forward with God into my new future. When I lean back or I lean sideways, I tend to lean by myself. When I lean forward into my new future, I'm leaning with Jesus, who can assist me and help me to go there. So these are Cana, Good Friday, and Easter. Next time we're going to talk about the next 3 seasons that help us to process this new life that we're being offered in Easter.